Here's a real little curio. It's the MTZ Tso or So 85. I'm going to be saying a lot of maybe, possibly, apparently during this. Information about these is really not easy to find. I've found one website that carries a review of them. I've based the information on that and the comments left on his review, and that's all gone through Google Translate. My spoken Russian isn't very good. There are a couple of videos about them, but again, they're all in Russian, and I can't translate it. I can't speak Russian. That's a shame. So, it was made by the Minsk tractor factory, which I think is their mark. This was part of the sort of USSR Soviet economy. They were enormous state-owned factories that produced various things, chemical factories and tractor factories and tanks and guns and all sorts of things. Collapsed after the wall came down. There's a theory that this was possibly made by, well, the original was made by one of the workers who just thought he's going to make himself a curious knife. Someone saw it and thought, hang on a minute, these massive state conglomerates are obliged to produce all sorts of consumer goods. We'll make one of these. Because it's, let's face it, it's dead simple. Apparently there were versions that had a corkscrew and also had a tin opener on them. So they must have been made by other plants as well. I'm not sure. Some of them had sort of Minsk down on the side here. The markings, I don't know. I guess that's Minsk Tractor Factory. Don't know. This is TSO. The 85 may be the price that it was, and it would have been in kopecks, a fraction of the ruble, which 85 kopecks is about a penny, actually, even in modern times. So 1950s look about it, but then frankly a lot of Eastern European stuff really pre-1989 had that sort of, you've got a decent stuff, you've got a decent design, why change it? It may be, it's stainless steel, it may be a sort of a VG stainless. Again, I couldn't tell you. It is, apparently it's quite soft and quite easy to sharpen. And let's have a look at the wear on that blade. Yeah, there's a fair amount of it, so it's been sharpened quite a lot. There's quite a few dings and scrapes on this blade. What I'm trying to pick out is what I think are manufacturing, these little striations here are possibly the manufacturing lines, and then all the rest of the scratches are where people have tried to sharpen it and not done a very good job. But who knows? I mean, it was a kid's knife. Kids have to learn how to practice things, don't they? The whole thing, I think it's a curious knife. It's a really simple design. What more do you want? Little pin goes through there. These apparently now are getting rare, even in the USSR, where I guess they must have produced millions of these things. They're getting rare. I imagine in England it's even rarer. I've never seen anything like this before. It was on an antiques website, Mad Mantiques, I'll put a link below, that just had Russian folding knife, which he thought was Russian basically because of these sort of Cyrillic characters, and turned out they were right after a bit of research. The website reviewer in 2010 apparently paid 500 rubles for his collector's item, which works out between sort of £4 and £5, dollars or euros, depending on what currency you want to use. It doesn't seem to be produced anymore, which I think is a shame. It's just such a simple and quite safe design. I mean, what's going to go wrong with it? It's built out of, this is quite thick steel. That's quite thick steel. The build quality, as you can see, the centering isn't great, and it doesn't matter what you do with it. That's a little bit off, and these shoulders here, as you can see, there's it's not great manufacturing skill involved in that, but it's good enough. Like an awful lot of Russian stuff, frankly, it's good enough. I'm wondering why this kind of design just isn't available anymore. It seems a real shame. This is the only one I've ever seen. Presumably, it's probably the only one in the UK, actually. So, as I said, the information that I've got is based on one website review and the comments that reviewers have put underneath and gone through Google. If anybody does know anything more about it, please, please, please leave a comment. Now, that's obviously fairly cheaply stamped. It's not stamped very evenly or deeply. Same on this side. It's crude, it's basic, it's simple. I imagine it was very cheap to produce. It was, from what I can see, pretty cheap to buy. But it's just a great design, isn't it? What curious design that is. Something really quite different. I guess one of the reasons there aren't many of these surviving, because they were cheap and they were, I presume, bought by kids and lost. But also, it's slim. The dimensions of this, it's not very thick. Also, just not even half an inch thick. I would imagine it would be quite easy to lose. It would be quite easy to drop. Overall, we've got overall length of nearly 7 inches, so that's not too bad. Blade, 3 inches. Unfortunately, because this would be counted as a lock, it's not UK legal. Not that I'd be tempted to carry it. I'm not tempted to sharpen it either, or do any more than give it a little bit of a polish, which I've done. It's a grand old thing. It's what, nearly 40, 50 years old. If only it could talk, and the stories it would relate. It's not in bad condition. I don't know how it got here. Who knows? We could speculate. Don't know. Maybe a trawlerman sold it in Grimsby. There was a big Russian fleet used to pull in there. That must have been an entertaining night out. A souvenir from travels. Who knows? I'm very glad whoever it was bought it. Did bring it over here. Still a little bit rusty. That rust is proving quite difficult to get rid of. Bit of pin detail there. Again, not very even. Same there. Yeah, it's crude, it's simple, it's effective, it's unique, certainly unique in Britain as far as I'm concerned, and it's pretty rare in Russia now. That's a disadvantage of polishing it, of course. It drops out of your hand. So possibly why there aren't very many of these. These must have been produced in the millions, I would have thought. But apparently now, very rare and unusual. And I think quite interesting.